In the chilling silence of a snow-covered forest, a faint, trembling whimper echoes, a cry of loyalty and desperation. Sarah, alone in the dead of night, couldn't just walk by. Her heart broke with compassion. This is a story of human kindness, a dog's devotion, and the courage that will save them both. If this touches your soul, hit that like button, share it with those who value humanity, and subscribe to catch the ending. Let's dive into this heartwarming journey together. Snow gently blanketed the forest, wrapping it in a white hush as Sarah trudged forward. Her breath turned to misty clouds in the frosty air. She hadn't planned to linger, but something in the stillness made her slow down. Then, cutting through the whisper of the wind, she heard it, a soft, broken whimper, full of pain and pleading. Her heart clenched, and she veered toward the sound. There, at the base of an old oak, lay a German shepherd, its black and tan coat dusted with frost. A rough rope dug into its paws, leaving red stains on the snow. The dog's deep, dark eyes met hers, flickering with fear and a faint spark of hope. Sarah froze, tears welling up. Who could be so cruel to this loyal creature? She dropped to her knees, her fingers shaking as she touched the knots. The rope was wet, cold, and tight. But Sarah knew she wouldn't leave until this dog was free. The shepherd whimpered softly, its breathing uneven, its body trembling from cold and exhaustion. She pulled a pocket knife from her jacket. Her hands shook, not just from the chill, but from the emotions flooding her. She thought of her childhood dog, always her protector, and knew this one deserved the same. Cutting the first knot, she heard the dog exhale, as if sensing freedom. The forest was silent, save for the distant howl of wind. Sarah didn't know who left it here, but resolve ignited in her heart. She wouldn't let it die. Her hands kept working, tears falling onto the snow, mingling with its cold. This wasn't just a dog, it was a soul begging for rescue. Sarah's fingers numbed as she cut, but she didn't stop. The first knot gave way, and the shepherd lifted its head slightly, its dark eyes tracking her every move. Snow soaked through her jeans, but she didn't care. Her mind was on the dog. The wind picked up, carrying a bitter chill, and a faint howl, maybe another animal or just an echo, sounded in the distance. Her heart raced, not just from effort but from fear. What if someone came back for this dog? She sliced through the second knot, and the rope fell with a dull thud. The dog tried to move, its legs shaky but weak. Sarah placed a hand on its fur, cold and damp, and whispered, "Hang in there, buddy, I've got you." Her voice wavered, but it carried a strength she didn't expect. The dog whimpered softly, and Sarah could swear she saw gratitude in its gaze. She moved to the third knot. Her knife slipped on the wet rope, and she flinched, scared of hurting the dog. Suddenly, the forest stirred. A snap of branches behind her made her whip around. Her heart stopped. A shadow flickered between the trees. "Who's there?" she shouted, her voice cracking with tension. No answer came, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. The dog growled, a weak but fierce sound, and tried to stand, protecting her. Sarah froze, knife ready, her eyes darting between the trees and the dog. Was it the one who left it here? Her hands shook harder as she returned to the knots. Time was running out. The final knot was the tightest, her knife barely moving. The dog whimpered again, its breathing ragged. Sarah's tears streamed down. "I'm not leaving you," she whispered, like a vow. With one last push, the rope gave way, and the dog staggered to its feet, trembling but alive. The shadow moved closer, footsteps crunching. Sarah jumped up, standing between the dog and the unknown. "Who are you?" she yelled, her voice shaky but fierce. A figure stepped from the dark, a tall man in a black hoodie, face half hidden. "You're making a mistake," he growled, his voice low and rough. The dog snarled louder, fur bristling. Sarah's heart pounded, but she gripped her knife tighter. She didn't know what came next, but one thing was clear. This dog was more than an animal now. It was a bond forged in danger, and she'd protect it at all costs. The forest held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Sarah stood firm, clutching the knife, her breathing fast and uneven. The man in the hoodie stepped closer, his boots crunching the snow. His voice, rough and threatening, echoed through the trees. "You don't get what you're doing," he said, stopping a few yards away. His face stayed shadowed, but his tone dripped with anger and cold confidence. The dog growled louder, its frail body tensing, ready to shield her. Despite its weakness, Sarah felt her heart ache. This dog, barely standing, was trying to be her protector. "Who are you? Why'd you do this?" she demanded, her voice shaking but sparking with anger. The man stayed silent, his hand slowly reaching into his pocket. Sarah instinctively stepped forward, shielding the dog. "Don't even try," she snapped, raising her knife. The forest went still, like nature itself was holding its breath for the showdown. A metallic glint flashed from the man's pocket, a gun. Sarah froze, her hands trembling, but she didn't lower her knife. The dog's growl turned fiercer. Its eyes burned with defiance, and she knew they were in this fight together. The man smirked, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "That dog's not your problem. It was punished for betrayal." Sarah's brow furrowed, confused. "Betrayal? It's just a dog," she shouted, but the man shook his head. "It knew too much. Its owner was weak, and it stayed loyal to the end. Now it belongs here." His words hit Sarah like a blast of icy wind. She glanced at the shepherd, seeing not just pain but unshakable loyalty in its eyes. Her heart tightened. She couldn't believe someone would punish a dog for its devotion. Without hesitation, Sarah lunged for the last, not still holding the dog. The man stepped forward, raising his gun. "Stop," he barked. But Sarah kept cutting, her knife trembling. A shot rang out, the bullet whistling past and burying itself in the snow. She yelped but didn't stop. The dog, sensing freedom, surged forward. Strength flooded back into its body, and it launched at the man, knocking him down. The gun flew from his hand, landing in a snowbank. Sarah dropped to her knees, her breath ragged, heart pounding like it would burst. The man thrashed in the snow, but the shepherd was relentless, its teeth flashing as it bit his arm. He screamed in pain. Sarah covered her mouth, stunned. This dog, moments from death, was now fighting for her. She crawled to the gun, grabbed it with shaking hands, and aimed it at the man. "Get out of here," she yelled, her voice trembling but strong. The man, wincing in pain, glared at her with pure hatred but stumbled to his feet and backed off, vanishing into the trees. Sarah lowered the gun, tears streaming down her face. The dog limped to her, licking her hand as if saying thanks. She hugged it, feeling its trembling warmth. In that moment, she knew this dog wasn't just a survivor. It was part of her now. The forest fell silent again, but it felt different, full of hope and a new bond. Sarah knew their story was just beginning. Sarah held the dog tightly, her tears falling onto its matted fur, mixing with the melting snow. Its warm breath brushed her hands, filling her with relief and gratitude. The dog, now safe, rested its head on her lap. She stroked its neck, feeling its trembling ease. The forest was quiet, but the silence no longer scared her. It felt almost sacred. Sarah knew this dog, with its loyal soul, had saved her as much as she'd saved it. But the peace didn't last. A rustle, not the wind, but footsteps, came from the distance. Sarah tensed, her hand instinctively gripping the gun. The dog lifted its head, ears perked, a low growl rumbling. Another figure emerged from the trees. This time, it was an old man with a cane, dressed in a worn coat, his face lined with wrinkles, but eyes warm with kindness. "Don't be afraid," he said softly, raising his hands in peace. Sarah slowly lowered the gun but stayed alert. "I saw everything," the old man continued, stepping closer. "That dog belonged to my son. It was his loyal companion until he got into trouble. The guy who ran off. A traitor who wanted revenge on the dog for its loyalty." Sarah listened, her heart aching with every word. The old man knelt beside the dog, his hands trembling as he petted its head. "His name's Max," he whispered, tears glinting in his eyes. Sarah's throat tightened. This story was full of pain, but also incredible love. Max turned to the old man, whimpering softly, and Sarah saw a spark of recognition between them. She realized this dog hadn't just survived. It had been waiting for its family, even when tied to death. "Thank you for saving him," the old man said, looking at her with gratitude. Sarah shook her head. "I didn't just do it for him. He saved me too." Her voice cracked as she glanced at Max, whose eyes now glowed with warmth. The old man offered to take them to his cabin in a nearby town to warm up and care for Max. Sarah nodded, helping the dog stand. His steps were shaky but stubborn, and he glanced at her with gratitude. As they walked, the old man shared how his son died protecting his family, leaving Max as his only reminder. Sarah listened, feeling her own soul heal through the story. As they reached a path lit by the town's lights, warmth spread through her, unlike anything she'd felt before. But deep down, Sarah knew their challenges weren't over. That man with the gun could return, and Max's occasional growls at the dark trees told her he sensed it too. She tightened her grip on the leash the old man gave her, vowing they'd face any danger together. The forest faded behind them, but hope burned in Sarah's heart. This night was the start of something new. Sarah, the old man, and Max trudged along the snowy path, the town's flickering lights growing closer. The cold still bit at her bones, but Max's warmth beside her heated her heart. The old man, leaning on his cane, spoke of his son, his laugh, how Max was always by his side, protecting him even in the darkest times. Sarah listened, tears welling up. But these were tears of healing. She glanced at Max, his step steadier, his eyes glowing with a loyalty that hit her right in the feels. When they reached a small cabin with a smoking chimney, the old man stopped. "Come in, you'll both find shelter here," he said, opening the door. Inside, the air was warm, filled with the scent of burning wood, a steaming mug of coffee waiting on the table. Sarah helped Max settle by the fireplace. His body relaxed, and he let out a soft sigh, like he'd finally found home. She sat beside him, stroking his head, feeling the tension of the past hours slip away. The old man draped a blanket over her shoulders, his aged hands shaking but his eyes full of thanks. But the calm shattered with a knock at the door. Sarah jumped, her hand reaching for the gun. The old man peered out the window and froze. "It's him," he whispered. Sarah's heart iced over. Max stood, his growl filling the room, and she knew the man was back. The door burst open, revealing the hooded figure, gun in hand. "I warned you," he snarled, aiming at Sarah. Everything happened in a flash. Max lunged, shielding Sarah. A shot rang out, and Max yelped, collapsing. Sarah screamed, dropping to his side, tears blinding her as she held him close, his breathing faint. The man stepped closer, but the old man swung his cane, knocking the gun from his hand. It fell to the floor, and the man stumbled back, cursing. Sarah, without thinking, grabbed the gun and pointed it at him. "Get out, or I'll shoot," she shouted, her voice shaking but fierce. The man glared, hatred in his eyes, but fled into the night. Sarah sank beside Max, her trembling hands stroking his fur. Blood seeped from his side, and panic gripped her chest. "Don't leave me," she whispered, tears falling onto his face. The old man rushed for a first aid kit, his hands working fast to bandage the wound. Max weakly licked her hand, his eyes still shining with love. An hour passed, and Max's breathing steadied. The old man said the bullet had grazed him. He'd survive with rest. Sarah hugged Max, relief washing away her fear. She realized Max wasn't just a dog, he was her brother in spirit, her protector. The night outside calmed, and the cabin glowed with quiet hope. Sarah knew their journey wasn't over, but she, Max, and this new home were now bound together, ready to face whatever came next.